Let me tell you a story. Basil Zacharoff is his white people name. His real name is Basilli Zacharoff. Born into a poor family, slowly makes his way to Constantinople. Now, he goes to Constantinople, and step by step, he kind of starts making some moves. What his first job was, and this is kind of his intro into the world of crime. Now, it is thought, and knowing this guy's history, it's probably true, that he started as an arsonist. I.e., what that means is, fire brigades, they aren't how you think they are, how they are now, back then. Essentially, fire brigades would, back then, I don't know if this was for the Ottoman Empire, but I know this for England, maybe even 100 or 200 years before. They would sell insurance. Fire brigades, the fire department would sell insurance. So if your house didn't have a plaque in front of it that said that you pay fire insurance, they would come to your burning building. They say, "Where's your plaque?" They go, "No plaque." They're like, and they would watch it burn down. It was half a scam. So I imagine when Zacharias was in Constantinople as a kid, that was the same scam. The fire brigades would sell insurance, and if you weren't paying that insurance, they were not going to put out the fire, right? So what he would do is that he would be the arsonist behind the fires. If they wanted to burn something, get paid, they would do that. Greek lightning, in a way. So it is thought that he became an arsonist with Constantinople's fire brigades, who were paid to recover or salvage treasures for their wealthy owners. So they would go through fires and bring them out. So part of a scam was his introduction to the life of crime. Now, he was summoned to a court in London due to irregular exports of goods from Constantinople to London. He was running some trading scams too, by the sound of it. The London Greeks from Constantinople preferred disputes and involving members of their community to be settled outside English courts, and he was discharged on the condition that he paid £100 restitution to the claimant and remained within the court's jurisdiction. Instead, he immediately left for Athens, where the 24-year-old Zacharoff was befriended by a political journalist, Athene Skouloudis. The eloquent Zacharoff succeeded in convincing Skouloudis of the rightness of his London court case. Skouloudis was a friend of a Swedish captain who was about to leave his job as an agent of arms manufacturer Thorsten Nordenfeld. Skouloudis used his influence to recommend Zacharoff for the role. Zacharoff was hired on 14 October 1877, beginning a spectacular career as an arms dealer. Right? The political and military instability in the Balkan states, Turkey and Russia involved, provided an excellent opportunity for arms sales. As such, as each state spent to match the perceived aggressive intentions of their neighbors, even after the Treaty of Berlin. So that's how he got into arms dealing. He ran some small scams as a kid, and he got into arms dealing. So Zacharoff did not make arms dealing his sole business at first. After Cyprus passed under British control in 1878, he returned to the UK. By 1883, he was working as a shipping agent in Galway, Ireland. This guy has been in many countries, from Turkey to Constantinople, Russia, Athens, London, Ireland now, where he recruited local girls for work in American factories. He also had a spell in the US where he worked as a con man and later as a salesman in St. Louis for a rail car business. This guy is just doing all small little scams around the world. In 1885, posing as Prince Zacharias Vasilios Zacharoff, he married a Philadelphia heiress, Jeannie Billings, and was pursued to Rotterdam by detectives after his exposure as a bigamist by a Briton who recognized him as the same man who married a British girl in Bristol in 1872. Oh, bigamy. He had 2 wives. So basically, he's marrying rich widows. He's running scams all across Europe in the late 1800s. How is there not a movie about this guy? And it gets crazy. Okay, he's a little con man. Okay. Zacharoff sold munitions to many countries, including Great Britain, Germany, Russia, the Ottoman Empire, Greece, Spain, Japan, and the US. Despite his reputation for corruption, he was instrumental in marketing military equipment, including various weapons such as the Maxim gun, one of the first fully automatic machine guns, and the first working submarine. The British-Swedish Nordenfeld produced a range of anti-torpedo boat guns in Edith, Kent, Stockholm, and Spain. Zacharoff worked for Vickers, the munitions firm, from 1897 to 1927, 30 years. So basically, the Maxim gun, which is one of the most famous machine guns. Pretty much you will see this in World at War, Call of Duty World at War, that were used in World War I extensively, right? And as you can imagine, Maxim, the company that produced them, got very fucking wealthy. And so there is Basil Zacharoff, Basilli Zacharoff, selling this Maxim machine gun, right? It's basically a machine gun on a tripod. So you've seen them before if you've seen anything in history ever. So wildly popular, and he was the salesman for it in a time when the whole world was going to war with each other. So insanely successful salesman, right? And then he sold submarines. Now, the story goes that, I believe, and I'm butchering this story, but he sold submarines, right? He would go to Greece and say, hey, you need to buy a submarine. They're like, all right, we'll buy one submarine. Then you go to the Turks and they're like, hey, Greece has two submarines. It has a submarine. They'll buy three. The Turks will buy 3 submarines. Then he'll go to Russia and be like, hey, the Turks have 3 submarines, and they'll buy 10. And then none of them work, right? That's one of the stories that is around, one of the rumors / probably true stories around this guy. And then, of course, he sold munitions from Vickers, which is a massive conglomerate, British conglomerate that sold, munitions after World War II, during World War I, and then they went out of business after World War II, but they sold just heaps of stuff. Well, he was the first merchant of death. He got that name, right? So apparently he actually donated £20,000 in order for France to be represented in the forthcoming Olympic Games in Berlin in 1916. So this is where he kind of cozies up to France in his life. He basically donated money to the Olympic team, apparently. He was basically the Boeing and Airbus of the day. If someone was anti-military, an anti-militarist like Jean Jaudy, they were assassinated the next day that the article came out. So one day when the anti-militarist Jean Jaudy was assassinated, after he let his thoughts be known, Raymond Poincaré signed a decree appointing Zacharoff a commander of the Legion of Honor, which is the highest French order of merit, both military and civil, currently comprised of 5 classes, established in 1802 by Napoleon himself. He has the highest awards in French military society, which is insane, right? So basically, he continued to provide military weapons and munitions to France. During the Great War, the First World War, one of his hardest tasks during the Great War was to ensure that Greece joined the war on the side of the Allies, helping to reinforce the Eastern Front. On the surface, this seemed impossible since King Constantine was a brother-in-law of the Kaiser. Setting up a press agency in Greece to publicize British propaganda, contacted by Wellingham, Zacharoff led within a few months to King Constantine's overthrow by Eleftherios Venizelos and the Greek entry into the was and of the British Empire. This guy is the Forrest Gump of the First World War, basically, and the first the last couple decades, the first couple of decades of this time, of the 19th century, of the 20th century, sorry. He convinced Greece to join the Allies. That's what they're saying here, which is crazy. By the end of World War I, the Times estimated that Zacharoff had laid out $50 million to the Allied cause. Now, laid out, I assume they mean spent. Post-war dealings. In the years that Zacharoff involved himself in the affairs of the lesser powers, which are the big four, which the big four involved in remaking Europe could happily ignore, in particular he set out to ensure that Greece and Venizelos received the proper share of the spoils from the badly weakened Turkey. In 1920, he donated half a billion gold francs to the Greek state for the Greek cause, the Mirali there. Zacharoff convinced Venizelos to attack, but after some impressive initial success, the Greek army, we don't want to talk about that. Anyway, Zacharoff was also involved in 2 more significant financial ventures in October 1920. He'd becoming involved in the incorporation of a company that was the predecessor to the oil giant BP. He foresaw that there was a great future in oil business. This guy is just everywhere. Now this is even funny, it gets here. His association with Prince Louis II of Monaco led to his purchase of the debt-ridden Société des Bains des Mars, which ran the world-famous Monte Carlo Casino. He purchased a bank that owned the Monte Carlo Casino. This guy owned the Monte Carlo Casino at one point and was the principal source of revenue for the principality. Right? He succeeded in returning the casino to profit again. He bought the Monte Carlo Casino and made it profitable. At the same time, Zacharoff had prevailed upon Clemenceau to ensure that the Treaty of Versailles included protection of Monaco's rights as established in 1641. Louis noted their gradual erosion over the subsequent 3 centuries, right? So he went to Monaco, bought the casino, made it profitable, and ensured the freedom and security of Monaco. Mind you, a couple decades later, another Greek person would own part of the Monte Carlo Casino, Aristotle Onassis. But it was Basilli Zacharoff who made it profitable again, right? So, super interesting dude. In 1924, 74 years old, he married his mistress, probably his 500th marriage. His mistress, Maria del Pilar Antonia Angela Patrocinio Fermina Simona de Muguera y Beruete, in her own right, first Duchess de Villafranca de los Caballeros. So some Spanish princess, I think. Previously married to the cousin of the King of Spain, Alfonso VII. The Duchess was reputed to be one of the richest women in Spain. So he married into money again. This guy knows how to marry into money. About 18 months after the marriage, the Duchess died of an infection. He began selling his business assets and drafted his memoirs. He apparently burned the manuscript after it was stolen by a valet and recovered by police. He wrote his whole life story, but he burnt it. Fuck! After Zacharoff's country house, the Chateau de Balincourt at Aronville near Paris, was formerly the property of King Leopold II of Belgium. What? This Leopold II of Belgium is that scumbag who committed massive genocide in the Congo of 5 million people. And he was living in his old house and was filled with works of art and one of the most beautiful in France. Holy shit, dude. So his philanthropy, he says here, he was a major benefactor to various institutions. The chair of aviation at the University of Paris, the chair of aviation in St. Petersburg, in the Imperial College London, French literature at Oxford, English literature at the University of Paris. He donated 20,000 to refurbish the Paris's zoo's monkey house. Financial contribution to studying aviation in England, construction of a war hospital at Biarritz, I assume that's in France, yep. Donation towards building the Greek embassy in Paris, help for the earthquake victims of Corinth, and establishing the Institut Pasteur Athens in 1919. His honors now. Grand Cross Legion of Honor in France, right? Honorary Knight Grand Cross Order of the Bath. George V, who detested him, resented his use of titles, which, as a French citizen, were only honorary. He got the Order of Bath, a British order of chivalry by King George, started by King George. He also got the Honorary Knight Grand Cross, Order of the British Empire. He got the Order of the British Empire? What? And the Grand Cross, which is the Order of the Redeemer. The Order of the Redeemer, also known as the Order of the Savior, is the Order of Merit of Greece. The Order of the Redeemer is the oldest and highest decoration awarded by the modern Greek state. So he pretty much got insanely high honors from England, France, and Greece. Now, the last trick I have in the book about this guy is here in the popular culture. So, he was played in many a TV show, many a novel, as you can imagine, being an arms dealer with such a record of just straight up insanity, right? He was in many different conspiracy, spy movies, blah, blah, blah. But he was the most famous, of course, is he was used by Ian Fleming as the model for Ernst Stavro Blofeld, leader of the international criminal organization Spectre, and a main antagonist in the James Bond series of novels and films. So that Blofeld, which I believe is like Dr. Evil, James Bond, is based on him. Ernst Stavro Blofeld. That's Stavro is Zacharias inspired, right? Zacharoff inspired, right? And that makes a lot of sense. So that the guy that Austrian played, Christoph Waltz, Inspector, is based off Zacharoff.